everyone. Welcome to your art history class for this week. I miss some of you so much. I cannot wait until everyone is all back together, which should be really soon, right? We've got some friends here this week, and we'll have some more friends here next week, and we'll slowly get back to normal. Instead of doing our normal flashcards, we're actually gonna go through our artists today instead, okay? So we're gonna look at their picture like we have up in the hallway, and then we'll talk about what kind of art they did, what they were famous for, okay? You ready? All right. So this was the first artist that we talked about. He was from France, and he was famous for his water lily paintings. He liked to paint outside a lot, and he had quick strokes, and we talked about kind of like rain or like playing the piano. He moved real fast through his paintings. And his name was Claude Monet. Good work. All right. And then after that, we talked about a man who used scissors, right? That was what he was famous for. And he cut out pieces of paper and then glued them onto his artwork. And so it was like painted pieces of paper glued together. And we kind of call it a collage. And he had really strong hands from using scissors all the time. And to make his hands even stronger, he played the violin for hours every day. And his name was Henri Matisse. Good work. Okay, and then we'll move on to the next one. So this one was Miss Bridget's favorite so far. He's got kind of wild hair, and he was famous for his artwork that focused on popular culture. So it focused on kind of famous things, right? Popular things. So he had artwork that focused on famous actresses and actors. He did some artwork for musicians, and they used it as like album covers. And then he was also very, very famous for this painting, which is the Campbell's tomato soup can, which is kind of a goofy thing to paint, but he painted it in very vibrant colors, and that made it look kind of new and fresh. His name was Andy Warhol. Good work. Then we moved on to someone who did comic book style artwork. And so we talked about onomatopoeia when we talked about him. Words like pop and splash and knock, right? They're words that sound like what they are, okay? And his name was really, 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 really long. It's Roy Lichtenstein. Good work. All right. After that, then we talked about someone who used spray paint as his art medium most of the time, right? And his name was Jean-Michel Basquiat. And he liked to include a lot of what in his artwork? Crowns, right? He thought it kind of symbolized him. He was going to be a king, and he was going to take the art world by storm, and he did. And that's why he made such a name for himself with his unique styling of artwork that we tried to practice with chalk to get kind of that mixed media look to it, right? And we hopefully did some artwork outside because that's where a lot of his artwork was done. All right, then last week we were talking about a woman named Georgia O'Keeffe, and she liked to paint a lot of flowers, right? She liked really feminine paintings. Now, I have a couple paintings here that she did that I wanted to share with you. So we have this one here, which is kind of an interesting painting, right? It's got a really interesting look and shapes to it here. Now, this is painted based on a song. So Georgia O'Keeffe was listening to some music, and she painted what she heard. So that's why there's so many different lines and movements in this painting. And that's a really cool concept, right? So we could try that sometime. We could put on some music while we were painting or drawing and kind of try to draw what we were hearing, right? And that would give us some really interesting paintings and looks to that. Then we also talked about how she painted outside a ton, right? We've had a lot of artists who really like to paint outside because there's a lot of inspiration that we can find outside, right? God made this big, beautiful world, and there are so many things to look at, to paint or draw, right? So this one was a painting that she did while she was in the desert. So you can kind of see that there's like this desert kind of range, mountain range out here. And then there's a skull, which you would have found in the desert because it's very difficult terrain, a lot of sun, not much rain, right? And then she painted a little flower, right? And you can kind of take that however you want. You could see that as the flower represents hope, because while this is all really difficult and hard to live in, this flower made it through. But she liked to really add some feminine touches to her artwork. Okay, and remember she painted in her car. That was another thing we talked about because the sun was beating down on her out in the desert, and so she would get in her car and she would paint, which is kind of weird, right? We wouldn't paint in a car. No, Mom and Dad would not like painting in a car. All right, so I've got a couple different ideas for some projects that I could have you work on this week and this weekend, okay? So I want you to go outside, and you can either go outside and stay outside and paint and draw out there, or you can go outside and you can pick something and you can bring it back in, okay? So I went outside to her herb garden because it is huge right now. It's crazy because no one's been here to pick stuff. So it's gotten really ginormous. So we have a couple different things that I picked out there. So we've got like a little flower that I found and some herbs, right? I got some dill, and it's looking a little wilty now because Miss Bridget went outside and picked this a little while ago. Okay, and you see all those kind of fine lines to all of these plants? All right, so you could just draw what you see, right? And that would be great. You could also take this and dip it in paint and then put it on your paper, and that would give you some really interesting textures and shapes, and that would be a really cool project to do. Or what you can try is something that's called blind contour drawing. Can you say that with me? Blind contour drawing. Now, blind, right, is when you can't see. Contour is the shape of something. So you see all these little rounded parts there in that. That is contour. That's the contour of the plant, right? And then drawing. So blind contour drawing is when you don't look at your paper and your pencil. You look only at what you're drawing, right? So I'm going to show you. I have a blank sheet of paper right here. And so I'm going to keep my eyes up. Now, normally I would look at the plants, but I want you to know that I'm not looking, okay? And it's okay if you cheat a little bit. It's really hard. It's really hard to not look at your paper while you're drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and draw some plants. See, I almost wanted to look there. And we're going to try not to take your paper, your pencil off the paper, because that makes it harder. It's really hard to do when you take your pencil off the paper, but Miss Bridget does that because she has a hard time drawing any other way. Okay, and so I'm just thinking about the plants, right? I'm just kind of thinking about their shapes and how they look, right? All right, so let's take a look at what I got, okay? So this one is me thinking about that little flower, right? That's pretty close. And then this one was me thinking about this dill. And then this plant was me thinking about this, right? So those are pretty close. And it's really just a good exercise to see how connected your brain is to your hand. So I would love for you guys to work on any one of those activities, okay? The blind contour drawing is kind of more for my 3, 4, and 5-year-old students. Painting with flowers can be for the 2s and the 1-year-olds, and even the babies if they wanted to give it a shot with some finger paint and dip in the herbs in, because they would be edible, so that would all be good. All right, so I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, great weekend, and we will see you again next week for, you ready for this? We are gonna study Walt Disney. Look, there's Mickey Mouse. So I am really excited. This is gonna be a fun one. So we're gonna talk about Walt Disney next week, so get ready for that. But for this week, work on making some nature-based paintings and drawings. Have a good one. Bye.